This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Isai. We have a very interesting subject that we're going to begin today, and it's going to take us a couple of sessions. And just as words of preface, even though it seems like an innocuous topic, this is a very sensitive subject. People take this very personally, okay? So nothing I'm going to say is meant as personal. Everything, I'm just reporting the facts as they appear in the Svarim of the Gdolei HaDoros. We're going to speak about Nusach Tefillah. We know there are various Nuschais, but primarily the ones that we encounter the most often, Nusach Ashkenaz, Nusach Sefard. I would venture to say, I don't know, I'm not going to take a guess. Raise your hand if you daven Nusach Sefard. I said Nusach Sefard. The Nusach Sefard. Nusach Sefard. Raise your hand if you daven Nusach Ashkenaz. Okay, so it's pretty evenly split. And then of course I know the Sfardim daven Eidos HaMizrach, and then you have Nusach Italki, Nusach Roimi, but we're going to speak primarily about Nusach Ashkenaz, Nusach Sefard. How did they begin? Which one is more authentic? Are you allowed to switch from one to another? And primarily what we're going to get down to is who is the Arizal? And what's the Ashkenazi or Sephardi? And that's going to make a very big difference to halacha. And there are basically going to be two schools of thought, but let's begin with the following. The Gemara says in Brachos, and Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis, Tana Rabbanan, Shimon Hapakuli, Shimon the cotton merchant, his dear Yudches Brachos L'fnei Ram Gamliel ala Seder b'Yavne, arranged the 18 blessings before Ram Gamliel in Yavne. But they only had 18 blessings. Amar lahem Ram Gamliel. Ram Gamliel said to them, Amar l'chachamim, we have a problem. What's the problem? We need to compose a bracha against the tzedaikim, against the heretics. Klum yesh adam sheyadea l'saken berachas hatzedokim. Anyone here know how to arrange a bracha against the tzedaikim? We need some really good words like sa'aker and sashaber and samager and sashpileim and sachniyim. We need a few bimhera. Anybody who could put that together? No, nobody was able to do it. Amad Shmuel HaKatan. So Shmuel HaKatan stood up, the tikna, and he enacted the bracha of V'la Malshinim. Happens to be, we give a share on Friday in Pirkei Avos. So there's one Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that was said by Shmuel HaKatan. Shmuel HaKatan Oimer, B'nafal Oivecha Al Tismach. Why? Because since he composed V'la Malshinim, lest you think you should walk around all day saying about the Risham, Sa'aker, Sashaber, Samager, Chalim, Shmuel HaKatan says, Kulat, B'nafal Oivecha Al Tismach. That's why it's Shmuel HaKatan, the Shitase. Okay, what? Yeah, but the thing is, it's not Goyim, it's against the Jews. Yeah.
It has to do with Christianity, right?
Yeah, but the early Noitzrim were Jews. The Tikneh L'Shana Acheres. And he enacted the bracha of V'la Malshinim.
No,
the Tikneh, right. So the question is, what was the big problem? We needed Shmuel HaKatan to Masake and V'la Malshinim. Why couldn't Ram Gamliel be Masake and V'la Malshinim? Why couldn't Shimon HaPakuli? There were big people back then. You could go into any first grade and ask the kids, make a poem to destroy Rishaim. What was the big chachma being Masakein V'la Malshinim? Now, the other brachas were not enacted by Shimon HaPakuli and Ram Gamliel. They just arranged it. But they needed someone to formulate V'la Malshinim. Why Dafka Shmuel HaKatan? What was the knack that he had? Why did you need to have a knack to formulate V'la Malshinim? So basically, the Ben Ish Chai, in the Shas Tshuvas Chaim Sha'al, the Chidah in Shas Tshuvas Chaim Sha'al, the Chidah lived from 1724 to 1806. The Chidah writes that from this Gemara we sort of see the secret of Tefillah. And that is, Tefillah is not arbitrary words. Tefillah, every word of Tefillah has nuclear energy that goes up to the Shamayim and accomplishes in the heaven based on knowing how the world works, based on knowing all the spheroids, based on knowing God's Hashgacha Pratis. The Anshe Knesset HaGdoila, 120 great men, among who were Nevi'im, understood how the word Barech and Oleinu and Es move around the heavens and are able to travel up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and are able to make effectuations in the heavens. And therefore, we didn't need somebody just to say, Rishayim, disappear. We needed somebody to know what kind of pegomim the Malshinim create in the Spheros and Shamayim, and which words, based on their gematria, Rashi Tevos, and inner meanings, are able to make changes in the heavens. And for that you needed someone of the personality and the caliber of Shmuel HaKatan. So from here we see that the words of Shemoneh Esrei themselves are so jam-packed with power and so jam-packed with energy, and they are able to make changes in the Olamos, and that's why it's so important to daven in Lashon HaKodesh. Because even though if you daven in English, if you don't know Hebrew, you're yotzei the mitzvah of Tefillah. But your Tefillah still will not be nearly as effective, or it's in a way almost not comparable to the power that the Tefillah has in Lashon HaKodesh, in the inherent words, as we're going to see, that we're going to learn, that Kavanah by Tefillah means something entirely different than I think everybody thinks. Kavanah by Tefillah does not mean to think about the meaning of the words. And we're going to see, so what are you supposed to think about? You're going to see a very big chiddush. So let's first read the words of the Chidah. Chidah says, Uvezet Tavin. With this we can understand Masha Amru Bebrachas at the end of Daf Chavches, the Gemara that Shmuel HaKatan enacted V'am Alshinim. So frek the Chidah v'lchar Yipla Gedoyle Yisrael Gamliel Chamim Ma Chachma Zu L'Sakein Dibroi Shtayim B'Lashon HaKodesh. What's the big spiel? What's the groise gedil of being Mesakein a bracha? What did Ran Gamliel say? Klum Yesh Adam Hatinoike Sheyoydim Lashon HaKodesh Chamim Benakal L'Sakein. Any kid could be Mesakein. Says the Chidah, no, amnam liyos kol ois va'ois meha brachos. Every letter of the blessings, soid shatalu beyichud v'zivug hamidos, is a secret that are dependent on it. Different unifications and different combinations of the spheros. Therefore, we need a great chacham, a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, to know exactly what letters to use, what words to use, to understand what kind of pegomim the Malshinim create in the heavens, and the illumination that could be restored through specific words. This is what it means that tefillah are dvarim ha'oimdim berumai shaloilam. These words are like an atom bomb. It's like a rocket ship. You just press the button and they're already inherently laden with tremendous kayach. So now we're going to learn the advice that the chavrusa of the Shulchan Aruch, the Beis Yosef, gave him. Who was the chavrusa of the Shulchan Aruch? A malach. Shulchan Aruch had an angel that learned with him, and he recorded the discussions that the malach taught him in his Sefer Magid Mesharim. And in this two-line piece of advice, it opens up for us a completely new avenue and world of what Kavanah is by Tefillah. Says the Magid Mesharim. Parshas in the beginning. What?
There's no problem with Torah blood Shemaim.
So it's a big question. How can we paskin? Can we paskin based on what the Malach told Beis Yosef? Could be it is an issue, but this is not halacha. This is inyane Kavanah. Okay. So the Magid says like this: Li zoher milachshev b'shas tefillah b'shum achshava afilu shel Torah. Be careful from thinking during davening, even thoughts of Torah. Ki im b'tevois hatefillah atzmam. Only think about the words of tefillah itself.
It means Shemona Esrei, right?
Yeah, it means Shemona Esrei. Don't think about Torah during Shemona Esrei, but rather b'tevois hatefillah atzmam. Now he doesn't say perush hatevois atzman. He says the tevois atzman. Comes the Nefesh HaChaim, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, 1749 to 1821. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner that the Eitzah of proper Kavanah by Tefillah is based on what the Magid told the Beis Yosef. Look in the second paragraph, Doik b'dvarav shaloi amar lechavein b'kavanas hatevos. He doesn't say, think about the meaning of the words. Oh, I have to buy this siddur that has the translation under each word, so I should think about the meaning of each word. No, nobody ever said to do that. It's a good thing, it enhances the Kavanah, but that's not the Iker Kavanah. You know why? Because nobody really knows the depth of power and meaning that's laden in each word. You think Baruch means blessed? Oh, I was had deep kavanah today. I got a special siddur, it said blessed under the word Baruch, and now I'm mechavein. I said V'lam Alshinim and the heretics. Groisa Kavanah. Nobody knows what it means. You could even take, we're going to see, you could take the Siddur Arizal. Even the Kavanahs of the Ari are only tipa shabayam of the meaning that's laid in every word. Ki be'emes v'oimek primius Kavanahs atfila, eini tani yadei adma. We have no idea how far-reaching it is. Even what the Rishonim, the celestial ones, have revealed to us is very little, and including the later authority, the Arizal, Asher Hifli Higdal Asik Kavanah Salam, who've made incredible Kavanahs. Einam be'erech av ketipa min ayam klal. Even Kavanahs Hari Harashash is not even a drop in the bucket compared to the depth of the oimek of the Kavanah, the Anshe Knesset Hagdoila. The Arizal was great, but he wasn't a Navi. He wasn't on the Madrega of the Anshe Knesset Hagdoila. So his Kavanahs compared to Anshe Knesset Hagdoila are only Tipa Shabayam. They were 120 Zakanim and even Nevi'im among them. V'chol mevin yavan, anyone who understands would know. There's no one on the dry land who could compose such a jam-packed, laden prayer. Lichlal, to include within it, v'lignois, and to hide within it, in the matbeya of tefillah, in the form, in the coin of tefillah, all the tikkunim of all the olamais, elyonim and tachtoinim, and all the merkava. And then now he says a very interesting thing. When I went to Arizal 2 years ago, so I was near Yeshiva Shara Shemayim. So I walked in there. I wanted to see what do they do there. So it was during lunch break.
Middle of the night or in the daytime?
During the day.
Nothing.
No, that right, exactly. So I was there. There was one person there. So he came over to me. He told me, "I want to tell you something." And now, if he wouldn't have told this to me, I only remember this morning I was looking at it. I don't think I would have understood what Rav Chaim Volozhiner says. He made a whole. He told me basically the Rashash in his Kavanah Tefillah. Every bracha corresponds to a different sfira, and every sfira is composed of all the other sfiras. But the Rashash has a cheshbon that every day of the year correspond to a different combination of sfiros, and every day from his time until the end of time has a different permutation and computation of sfiros. Meaning, the tikkun of today's mincha will only be accomplished with today's mincha and will never ever be able to accomplish it again. And the Anshe Knesset, when they formulated the tefillah, they put in the tefillah the proper koyach for the mincha on the 29th day of Iyar, Tavshin Samach Tes. And tonight's Mariv has in it a kavanah for the 29th, tonight already is Rosh Chodesh, right? For Rosh Chodesh Sivan, for Tavshin Samach Tes, and tonight's Shemon Esrei has in it that koyach. And if we don't do it, we'll never be able to make that tikkun, and we can't accomplish it today's mincha and not tomorrow. Shachs, what? Tavshin Ayin Tes.
It's a file.
Thank you.
It's a file.
In other words, the Anshe Knesset Gdoila injected into the tefillos the tikkunim, the specific tikkunim for every Shemona Esrei. For the rest of time, each Shemona Esrei is different than the next.
But everybody has a different...
What? I guess you can be mashman. I don't know.
But everybody has
One
a
second.
bekushim.
That answers the bakashos are not the ikar of the tefillah. The ikar of the tefillah, as we're going to see, are the words. Just the words.
Yeah, but it means that
One second, you'll see.
It's like
It's programmed into the words. It's programmed. What you put into the tefillah is almost negligible compared to what the words have in it already. We're going to see. V'shebechol, then now, I would never have understood that Rabbi Chaim was saying this. He says like this, V'shebechol pam shemispalulin. Every time a person davens, Yugram tikunim chadoshim b'siddur elam tzarkoches. He causes new rectifications in the arrangement of the words. V'hamshachas moichen chadosh macherem. And he draws forth other energies. Sheme'eshe teknua ad bias goyel lo yehaya v'lo yiyah shum tefillah b'pratos doimel lechaverta shekoydem la v'achrei klal. That from the time of creation there was no tefillah similar to this tefillah, and there will be. Every tefillah has laden in it, already injected into it, what it needs to accomplish through the power of the Anshe Knesset Gdoila. So the question is, how could any Basar Adam compose a prayer that the prayer will accomplish different things? Today's Mincha, tonight's Mariv, tomorrow Shachris. Who could compose such a liturgy that has in it such power, that it's so multifaceted and has in it different tikkun for different times? The answer is impossible, only through nevuah. You need to be a navi. That's why the Ashkenaz had many neviim on it, and they were able to inject into the tefillah these koichos. V'hu bilti efsher imloya yedei nevuah el yoina v'ruach kadshay asher hoifia aleim hoifa atzuma. That when the neviim compose the Shemona Esrei, it's shown on then a powerful, a nuclear energy of Ruach HaKodesh when they were Masaki in the Nusach HaTfilah. Some Yisbarach Shemoi B'fiyem Elu Tevois Spurais. Hashem put in their mouth these counted words. Ugenuzois B'sechem Kal Tikunim. And therefore, who possibly... So I'm a big Mekubal, I learned the Kisvei Ari and I learned the Kisvei Rashash, and I know the Kavanah. Whatever you know is negligible compared to what was really injected into that tefillah. Who could stand up in the sight of Hashem and the depth of the Kavanah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to know really what each word is supposed to accomplish? So you think, certainly if I read a translation, that's not the real meaning. Even if I read Kisvei Ari and Kisvei Rashash, it's not the full meaning. So therefore, says the Nefesh HaChaim, from the name of the Beis Yosef, who heard it from the Malach, the main objective of tefillah is just focus intently on the word you're saying. Meaning, I am now saying the word Baruch. I am now saying the word Ata. Whatever you say, whatever you think after that is not the Iker Kavanah. The Iker Kavanah is not the meaning, because it's not the meaning anyway. The Iker Kavanah is to focus intently on the word I'm saying. Don't let your mind deviate to other thoughts.
I disagree. I think that the Rambam said that this Tefillah is
America is a free country, and the new elections are coming up, and you're welcome to run. Yeah. However, when it comes to tefillah, the Nefesh HaChaim is telling us what he's saying from the Beis Yosef, who heard from the Malach. That look what he writes. Iker ba'avodas hatefillah. Look at these words. Shebe'eish ha'adam moitzi mipiv kol teva mitefillah. What should you think about when you say a tefillah? You should picture the word. You should picture the word when you say, I'm saying the word Baruch. Picture the word Baruch. Yitzayer loy oz b'machshavtoi oisa hateva b'oisiyoseh. Conjure up in your mind that word. That's why it's kedai to look in a siddur. Because if you're davening by heart, you have to imagine the word Baruch. If I'm looking in the siddur, so I see with my eyes the word Baruch. And be mechavein to add koyach to the word that it should accomplish lamala b'shamayim. That's why, says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, tefillah is called Dvarim ha'oimdim berumai shel oilam. Why? Because the words of tefillah itself arise up, each one to its source, each one to its root, to accomplish what it needs to accomplish. Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, V'hi segula nifla. It's a wondrous segula. Baduk umenusa. It's tried and tested. Lamargilam atzman v'zeh. If you accustom yourself to this, levatel ulahasam elav b'zeh kol mishal savam atardas. This will banish from your mind all distracting thoughts, all things that prevent you from having machshavos taharos. And the more you accustom yourself to this, the more you will purify your thoughts in tefillah. This is the baseline kavanas hatfilah. I'm saying the word, I'm picturing the word, I want this word to do what it should do. That's it.
No kavanas, no translation, no meat.
That's cherry on top. That's not the Iker Kavanah. The Iker Kavanah is to focus on the word, realize that every time I say a word, I'm pressing a button, it's a missile that's going up to Shamayim. Focus on the word, and that this word is laden with power, and that I would like to add Kayach HaKdusha to it, and that's the Iker Kavanah.
How can you be mechaven to something which you don't know what you are mechaven?
I'm not mechaven to the meaning.
So what? No, but not the meaning. If it's you're mechaven to the letters,
Mm-hmm.
what is the meaning which you're mechaven to?
Okay, so as we're going to see, the Kavanah is, I'm mechaven that the ones who wrote the tefillah, who knew what's in it, I have in mind ditto to that. Meaning, I have in mind, I'm endorsing what they put into the tefillah. I don't know what they put in.
It's like a
I'm
combination of...
mechaven al das mesaknei hatefillah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Right, I don't know what I'm doing. Right, tefillah, I don't know what I'm accomplishing.
It's a combination of
The question is, why should I do it?
Because we have emunah that it does what it needs to do. No, it does what it needs to do. By the way, this is just the introduction, okay? This is just the introduction. What? You should. Now again, in the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, if you don't think Perish Hamilos, it's Ma'akev. But the baseline Kavanah, according to Reb Chaim Volozhiner, based on the advice of the Magid, is that the main focus should be, I am saying these words are laden, these words are nuclear, and I want to send them up. I want to send up this package. Now, he writes in a footnote here, even though it's halacha psuk and shas that you could daven in any language, so how could you say that this is the main kavanah? If I could daven in English, the English words don't have any inherent power. Because he says, Shin Aleph, Shar Aleph, Shebechol HaMitzvahs, even mitzvahs tefillah, which is avoida shabalev. But definitely, this is, he says, you're yoytze mitzvahs tefillah. But mitzvah min ha-muvchar, it is not unless you daven in Lashon HaKodesh. He says, Ein aroich l'mish masav Lashon HaKodesh, to somebody who davens in English. So I just want to show you where Reb Chaim Volozhiner repeats this idea in his commentary to Pirkei Avos. He says in the Ruach Chaim in Parak Aleph Mishnah Beis, he says, "V'nei ata v'anoseinu rabim." Our avodah, we don't have karbanis, is only tefillah in place of a zevach and in place of a mincha. And the words of tefillah are oimdim berumay shalaylam v'chol teva v'teva oila l'makam gavaya me'al gavaya makam ha'karban mamish. Wherever the carbon went up, that's where the tefillahs go up. Now listen to these words. It's not for naught that 120 Nevi'im arranged it. Why we can also write tchinas about kashos. You know, you have these booklets that sometimes women say, bakashos, tchinas, supplications. So how is that any different than Shemona Esrei? It's not even remotely similar to Shemona Esrei. Because the Shemona Esrei, we could ask Hashem, heal me. Why do I need Nevi'im? Because they were mechavein and they're masakein, that every possible kavanah is laden within it. Now listen to this. Kloloi shel davar, shemiyom sheniskana, lo haya b'olam shtei tefillah sheyasu roshim shave lamala, she'al madriga achas. This is what we said before. Today, never in the history of the Jewish people were there ever two kavanahs that Ashkenaz Gdola programmed that they should do what a different tefillah did. You know, somebody said, I already davened today. No, you didn't daven today. What you need to do in this tefillah was never done before and will never be done again. It's not Shachris Mincha Marev. Shachris, you're fueling one area of the universe. Mincha, and it was never fueled before, will never be fueled again.
Which Nusach did they do?
First we have to understand what tefillah is. Then we can understand Nusach. Then he says like this. Meshuna bezetfilas hayoim, mitfilas esmal, ki yaver v'akol tov b'tevos. That's all in the words. Therefore, you say, how do we know this? Who told us this? It's nevuah. It's prophecy. That's why we needed prophets. Otherwise, we could have hired poets. We could have hired liturgists. No, you know the Magen Avram brings down that when Rav Elazar HaKalir composed the piyut, he didn't sit down and write it. He said the Shem Hashem, and his soul went up to heaven, and the Malachim helped him. People want to know, I want to add a Misha Berach for, what do you mean you want to add a Misha Berach? It's an insult to tefillah to add tefillahs. You know what kind of ingredients went into the formulation of tefillah? These men had to go up to the heavens. If you would look at them, they would burn you in their kedusha, and you're going to compose a man-made tefillah and add it. It's an insult to the elevated status of tefillah. That's one of the reasons. What? You're allowed to be moisif bakashas as a yachid, but not as a tzibor. Not as a tzibor.
Is this part of Kabbalah, what you learn here?
The Nefesh HaChaim? Nefesh HaChaim is it's a standard text in the Olam HaYeshivas, Sefer Nefesh HaChaim.
Aruch HaShulchan comes out very strongly against adding in the middle. Because once in a while they can do it, but not.
Yeah. Maybe Shema Kolenu, best after Yula Ratzain, best when you're done.
Because you're changing the matbeah.
He says, well, okay, I hear. Therefore, we need nevuah to tap into and to inject into the tefillah. He says, any kavanah that has ever been revealed is not even a drop in the bucket. Keneged the kavanah that even one of the smallest of the 120 sages were masig in the tefillah. But it's well beyond anybody's grasp. So let me just give you one analogy, and then we'll continue with this next week. There's a pasuk in Parshas Vayechi. The Yaakov Avinu says, "Va'ani nosati l'cha shechem acher al achecha." What? Vayechi? Shavuot. Shkoyach. Okay. Va'ani nosati l'cha shechem acher al achecha asher lakachti miyad ha'amori b'charbi v'kashti. Yaakov Avinu says to Yosef, I'm giving you an extra portion, and I took this portion from the Amori with my sword and with my bow. What does Targum Onkelos say with my sword and with my bow? B'tzloisi uvivausi. With my prayer and with my request. Says the Meshech Chachma, and we'll read this inside next week, a beautiful Meshech Chachma. Yaakov Avinu said, I took this city from the Amori with my sword, my prayer, with my request, my bow, my request. There are two types of tefillahs. There's salusai, tzi, uvivausi. One is like a sword and one is like a request. There are two types of tefillahs. There's the standard Nusach tefillah. The standard Nusach tefillah is a sword. What does that mean it's like a sword? The Gemara says if you kill somebody with a pin, you're chayiv misa. You take a little clothespin and you kill someone, you're chayiv misa. Well, I didn't know it was going to kill him. No, barzel, metal, is kedei lahamis. Any piece of metal could kill somebody. Right? A bow, if let's say you take a little bow and arrow that they give out in Lag Ba'omer and you shoot someone, you kill them, you're not chayiv. You could say, look, I didn't know that it was going to be so hard. But metal is kedei lahamis. There are two kinds of tefillahs. There's a standard Nusach tefillah and there's personal bakashos. Standard Nusach tefillah is a cherev, is a sword, is nuclear energy. A sword, you don't need to be strong to kill someone with a sword. You don't need to be powerful. Even a little pin, if you take out, you have a paper clip and you undo it and somebody uses it, you're a rotzeach. You could kill with a paper clip. When you say the words Barech Aleinu, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. It's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, but it's almost not critical. Regular Nusach HaTefillah is a sword. It doesn't really matter as much what you put into it. The words themselves. I have a question. You have an atom bomb, and here's the button. Does it matter if you go like this, or you go like that? The atom bomb is gonna go off. It's gonna wipe out a country. It doesn't matter how hard you press the button. The words of tefillah are an atom bomb. Whether you're mechavein or you're not mechavein, they still have nuclear energy regardless.
You have to say it. Say that.
As long as you say the words, and the more you could focus that I'm saying this word, the stronger it is.
How do you
But when it comes to personal bakasha, when it comes to personal bakasha, when it comes to my personal requests, who am I? Hashem, I need X, Y, and Z. Those words don't mean anything. They have no kayach, they have no kedusha, they have no nevuah in it. They're just the words of Basar V'Dam. Then, the more kavanah you have, and the more focus you have, and the more tsar you have, and the more devekus you have, the more powerful they are. They're like a bow. Some bows, if you pull it back a little bit, it will go a foot. If you put it back an inch, it will go 100 feet. If you pull it back a foot, it will go ad lamala. There are two kinds of tefillahs. There's charbi and kashti. The Meshech Chachma says charbi is the standard Nusach tefillah. Kashti is personal bakashos. That's bivausi. A personal bakasha is dependent on what you put into it. That's why, if you want to make daven tefillas nadava and you need to add something, you need to add something. But we don't do that anymore. We don't daven tefillas nadava because we can't be mechavein. Why do I need to be mechavein? Because I'm adding something. So if it's me, if I'm adding something, I need to be mechavein. But the regular Nusach HaTefillah, the ikr is the focus on the milim that I'm saying, says the Meshech Chachma, says the Reb Chaim Belazhner. So as we're going to see, there may be divergent energies that were put in different nuschos, And Bez Hashem, we'll try to explore that next time. Shkoyach. Agun Yom Tif.
Very much from me.
Do we take
Yeah?
this?
You know why? I was always questioning why.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.